Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Laura and today I'll be tier ranking every single book I've read so far this year, in total 43 books. I'm going to be dividing them by genre, so we have romances, gay, sapphic and heterosexual, mystery books, fantasy books, and then a bit of historical fiction, contemporary fiction. So without further introduction, let's start. These are the tiers I made. The first one is for my new all-time favorite books, so I will die for them. Then I have my new favorites of the year, which is I Love You, To the Moon and Back. Then we have You're Beautiful, Great Time, You Are Cute. This is for 3-star books that for me is a good rating. Then Go Girl, Give Me Nothing. I was probably bored throughout the book, or I just don't remember it at all. Then Didn't Work For Me, and Hell, which means I don't like it. Usually I don't have a lot of Hell books because I DNF books I don't like. These are the books I've read so far this year. The first ones are the May books, which is gay romance in Chinese. Talking about books I should have DNF. The first one is Star of Chaos. I'm so sorry, I hated this book. The problem is that I didn't do research, because I usually don't do research when it comes to the May books. I just try them, because my problem usually with the May books is the writing style, so until I read the book I don't know if it's going to be for me or not, and in this case I hated the writing style so much. And on top of that, you're following a 14-year-old who has this huge crush on his godfather who is like 20 something. I really hate age gaps when one of them is less than 20 something. Nothing happened yet. I'm pretty sure until he's like 20 something nothing is going to happen. But you know, I wasn't shipping them because I was like, you're a kid. Oh, I don't like this book. Then I read 1000 Atoms. I really watched the donghua before reading this book. I really enjoy it, especially because I wasn't expecting to love it as much, because I have already watched the donghua, but the banter is so good. I found it so refreshing. I don't think I've ever read a relationship like theirs. One of the main characters practices Taoism, so he's extremely good. He always tries to do good with people, and the other main character is kind of a villain. He's from the demonic cultivation side. If you like villains, you need to try this May. It's so good. Then Yu, this is by my favorite May author, Midburn. Is the first book in a new series by her. I really enjoy it. More than 1000 Atoms. I think so. I just adore the way she writes. I just feel every single thing I have to feel. Then I have a May book by the same author as this book here that I don't want to talk about, and for some reason I really enjoyed this book. I loved it. It's kind of a detective thriller and paranormal romance, and it's just so well done. It's so fun. I had so much fun reading this book. The humor is so good. I love them so much. And I mean, the cover, favorite cover of the year. Now we have gay romance with fantasy that are not written by Chinese authors. I've tried some this year because usually they don't work for me, but I had so many recommendations from you that I was like, you know what, I like them in Chinese, so why not try it in English? But I'm so sorry guys, it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why, but fantasy with romance, if it's not the main book, it just doesn't work. King of the Dark, you're following this dark prince and this kind of soldier, and they hate each other. I remember the smut was kind of good. I was really crashing on the dark prince, who was kind of a villain, but not really. I saw the plot twist coming. I don't see it. I'm so sorry guys. Then I read Resurrection Reprise. This was also really hot, and it's a standalone. So if you do like paranormal with gay romance, I would recommend this one. Then I have a book that has been on my TBR for like years. Like, it's one of the oldest books on my TBR. I finally read it. I liked it, but it's not really for me. It's a cozy fantasy. I had never tried cozy fantasy before. I had a suspicion it wasn't going to be for me, and I think it was just a bit boring. I just feel like I didn't have anything to look forward to. Now we have gay romances with no fantasy. The first one is college romance. I used to read so many of them, and right now all of them just tire me. They feel all of them the same. This one I finished and I had a good time reading it. It's about this stray guy who finds this gay man and they become friends, and he's trying to get him a boyfriend, and you know what's going to happen between them. And the next one is a book by Chase Potter. It was really good, but for me it was a bit too much. I would have preferred something more sweet. Probably people will be like, that will be boring. I just don't like suffering with books. It was about these two friends, and most of the time they're just friends. One of them is in love with the other one thinks he's a straight, does he? And it's just everything goes very slow, and it's a lot about family, about friendship. It has a really high average rating on Goodreads. People love this book. For me, it was a bit too angsty, but I really enjoy it. Then I have the next competitor. This was kind of boring, to be honest. It's about two guys who do ice skating, and I love ice skating. The reason why I enjoyed this book is because I was watching YouTube videos about ice skating while I was reading it, but the book itself felt a bit flat for me. Then I have two books that are kind of mixed on my memory because they are both sequels of thriller series I've been reading throughout the years. The first one is book 7, I think, in Valorant Doyle Investigates. I remember I was just okay about the mystery. Seeing them married was really cute. And the other book is the last book in the Spectral Files series. I have a bigger memory of this one because I loved the epilogue so much. It was the final book on the series, and I just thought the author did it so well. Then I have You and Meg, which is a contemporary romance that I loved. Did I love it more than my books? I think so. It's about two single dads falling in love, and it was beautiful. Then I have Heartstopper, which I mean was really cute. I don't have a really big memory of it. I think I used to love them more than I do now, but it's still a really good time. Now we have the sapphic romance book. First, I want to say I don't hate safe romance book. Obviously, I'm trying to find one that works for me, but it's hard, okay? I'm really picky with them, so please don't hate me for what I'm about to do. The first one is about this girl who is an equestrian, and the other one is a veterinary for the teen. I don't even know how it's pronounced. It's called Pas de Deux. I don't know if it was hell or it didn't work for me. I was so bored reading this book, but I finished it because it cost me like €9 the ebook. I was like, no, Laura, you're finishing this damn book, and then we're not going to talk about it again. You know what? I didn't enjoy this book. I'm sorry. It was nothing wrong with it. I was just bored. The next one is writing by the author of my favorite sapphic romance, which is Those Who Wait. I have a hate-love relationship with this author because she loves to write the hugest, more slow-paced romances ever. It's like Mariana Zapata, but make it gay. You know, like she loves to just linger in the details, to do it really, really slow. So if you really enjoy the characters, if you really vibe with them, you're going to love these books. That's why I loved Those Who Wait. Like, I remember going to sleep and just thinking about, oh, I'm going to see how my girls are doing. I will have read 300 more pages about just them being them. But in this case, I was just bored, you know. I wasn't vibing with the characters so much. If you like the author, you're probably going to love it. Everyone is loving it. But for me, it was just a bit too slow pace. Then I have Teaching Hope. It has one of my favorite tropes, that is two teachers falling in love. One of them is actually a secretary for the school, but she has to be a teacher for this small period of time, so they're going to be working together. They started with the grown foot. They don't really get along, and one of them is a single mom, and you have the kid who was so cute, but I was just like zero feelings with this one. Then I finally found a good sapphic romance, Suicide Pattern. This is more of a suspense book than a sapphic romance. I have to admit, half of the reason why I love this book so much is because it was so refreshing to read. It's writing kind of an 80s writing style, so it's not your generic romance writing style. In this case, you're following Annie, who is an ex-spy. It's more about, you know, the suspense of she trying to get away from all this world. Then by the same author, I have Honey in the Marrow. This is a book I didn't want to finish because I didn't want to rate, because I think it's really not the book, it's just me. It's a book about grief. I think I will enjoy it more when I'm a bit older and I understand more what grief feels like. In fact, the average rating for this book is a lot higher than for Suicide Pattern, and they are both by the same author. This is the debut book by her. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. It's just not for me, but it's a good book. Then When You Smile. It's about this girl who used to be this huge crush on her babysitter, but she moved to another place, and now they're back together in the same college. They are like 20 something, so the 3-4 age gap is not so obvious anymore. The girl who used to be the babysitter has a boyfriend now, and she thinks that she's straight, but she starts feeling extremely attracted to the girl she used to babysit. They start to meet a lot, and I really enjoyed the beginning of the book, but then I realized that all the characters were kind of flat. One of them is like the typical evil character. So overall, I was a bit disappointed with this book. Then I have the heterosexual romances. I only have one that is a contemporary. All the other ones are historical romances because they were really working for me, okay? The first one is the contemporary one, role playing. It's about this woman whose son has just go to college, so she's alone. She's kind of depressed. She's not taking care of herself. It's not that I don't see myself staying in the house and not going outside for months. I can totally see myself doing that. And that's the scary part of reading this book. Like, I was reading it, I was like, I'm looking for escapism, I'm not looking for a nightmare. I love being at home, okay? And I just don't want to be that person who stays at home all day. So I was really worried about her and about me. This is a romance between this girl and the man she's playing with, I think. They were playing video games and they meet and they realize that they are actually the same age, more or less. So they start to meet as friends and, well, you know what's going to happen. I think it was cute. Okay, it was cute. Now the historical romances. The first one is Ravishing the Heiress. I could have been this big 5 stars just for the premise. It was so good. It was screaming my name, guys. Like, I loved it so much. It's about this girl who comes from a family with a lot of money, but they don't have a title. So she's been educated her whole life to catch a husband who needs the money and has a title in order to get the title for her family. When she finally sees the man she's supposed to marry, she falls in love. The problem is that he's actually in love with another girl. They ended up marrying because his family needs her money, but she realizes that he's never going to love her the way he loves the person he couldn't marry. So it's extremely angsty. I love unrequited love, especially because it's a romance book, so you know how it's going to end. If I only had a couple of feelings, this would be amazing, but the writing made me feel nothing. Then I discovered Laura Ligarki, which is my new favorite author. I read so many books by her. The first one was Guilty Pleasures. You're beautiful. I really enjoy it. Then I read And Then He Kissed Her, one of my favorite books this year. The first one is about an archaeologist who is working for this dig. The second one is about a secretary working for a viscount, I think. The third one is about a girl who has a cake shop. She almost marries this, I don't remember, it was the brother of a viscount or the brother of a duke or something like that. His brother actually decided not to marry her because he didn't want to end up without a title, but the duke actually likes her and that's why he didn't want her brother to marry the girl. Yeah, it's juicy. I didn't like this one as much as the others because of something the heroine does at the very end. Other than that, it was a good book. And then I have Bookshop Cinderella by the same author. I don't have a big memory of it, but I have a good time reading it. The only book I didn't like by this author is She's No Princess. I think I'm going to give it Go Girl Giving Nothing High because I enjoyed the whole book. It's just that I didn't like the hero. To be fair, I didn't love the heroine either, but it's by Laura Ligarki and I love the way she writes the stories. They're just so easy to read, but in this case I didn't buy that he was in love with her. Then I read Connor's Way. This is probably my second favorite by Laura Lee. I really enjoyed this one. It's set in the period of time after the It Depends War, I think it's called. So a bit like in Scarlett O'Hara, you have this girl who used to be in a really rich family, but when she was like very young, the war happened and all her brothers died, all her family died. So now she's alone in this very big farm and she has 3 kids she has to take care of that are her best friend's kids, but she's also dead and they don't have any kind of family. That's when she finds the hero who is kind of dying in a street and she's like, I'm going to try to save him. And when she does, he decides he's going to have her for a bit. This book has such a rich plot. There was so many things going on. It has a lot of history in it. I just really enjoyed this book. Then I read another one of my favorite books this year, which is Lakeshare Park. This is a clean romance. The next one is also a clean romance because I think this author only writes clean romances. In this case, you're following a hero and a heroine who are both trying to help their little sister catch the husband they want, but both little sisters are trying to catch the same husband, which means that the hero and the heroine are kind of in a war with each other, trying to help their little sisters, and at the end they decided they are not going to help them. They are going to be together every single afternoon so their sisters are along with this man. And I just have so much fun reading this book. I also cried. Then I read Miss Newsbury List. I was hoping I was also going to suffer and love this one as much as the other one, but I didn't have really big feelings towards this book. It's about this girl. He is from this family. He has a lot of land, but they don't have any titles. She's the only girl from this family, so she's the only one who can get a title for her family. A duke has just asked her for her hand, and this way she can have the title. The thing is that she doesn't love him, so she kind of makes this list she wants to do before marrying, in a way to go with the fact that she's not going to have a life after this because she's going to be chained to this man she doesn't want to be chained to. The person who is going to help her with the list is the cousin of her best friend, who happens to be the love interest. The perfect rate. This didn't work for me. I just didn't care about the writing. I think it's about this girl who's going to marry this guy who is in another country. Nobody knows that she's engaged to him, so she cannot marry, but she wants her sisters to marry, and technically her sisters are supposed to be extremely beautiful. So what her uncle does is like, you're the one who's going to have a season, because if we put your sisters next to you, you're not going to catch a husband. So first you're going to be the one doing the season, and then your sisters. But she actually cannot marry because she's promised to another man, but nobody knows that. This Ray realized what's happening, and they kind of do a fake marriage proposal. So they are kind of going to marry, but they know it's just a pact they have, and of course that's the love interest. I remember it was a bit too over the top, the humor for me, and the writing just didn't work for me. I'm sorry, like half of the reasons why romance don't work for me is because the writing is making me feel nothing, and what can I do about that? Nothing. The next one is Mr. Gardener and the Governess. I love the premise of this one because it's about this person who works in the garden. He's a scientist. I love this kind of intellectual men. I think they are so cute and so hot, and I love them. And you're following the governess, so that means you also have children going on. I love children. It was cute. You're cute, okay? But I was hoping so much more for this book than being cute. Then I have my favorite book next to all this one. Which one I like it the best? Hard one. This is about two persons who married in one day, and they don't even remember each other. They make a pact of living separately in different cities, but they arrive in the same party. Neither of them realizes who the other is. They start to banter, and well, it's going to be a lot of fun. I enjoyed this book a lot. It has a plot device in the middle that a lot of people are going to hate. I kind of hated it, but I also cried so much with that plot device. I cannot really complain. We reached the fantasy genre. The first two books are in Malasan Book of the Fallen. The first one is Memories of Ice. I think here, great time. Really enjoyed this book. It was really solid. There were parts of the books that were a bit slow with the dream, so they will have a lot of military fantasy, because this is technically a military fantasy. Don't like when you have like all the soldiers there doing nothing, waiting for the other party to attack. I was like, can we skip to the good part? But there are so many scenes in this book play on my head as I see it. So yeah, I enjoy it. And then I read House of Change, which is the fourth book. I was just okay about this book. It's my least favorite next to Gardens of the Moon, but I think it's because in Gardens of the Moon I was confused. In this case, it's because I'm following a character I really don't like. At the beginning, I almost didn't have this book. Thankfully, it goes better in time, because I don't think I will have endure a whole book of him just being stupid and a villain. Because if you give me a villain, like in First Look, you have to make them clever, you know? You have to make them interesting. It's a bit slow. I doesn't have so many things as Dead House Gates and Memories of Ice that play on my head. Then I read Gideon the Ninth. This book is hard because I hated the beginning. Like the beginning, hell. Absolute hell. I hated it so much. But then things start to happen, and I get used to the humor, who is so over the top, and I get used to just the feeling of the book, because this is not the type of book I usually go for. I usually go for more serious fantasy, and in this case a lot of things were over the top. The characters were ridiculous, but they were kind of fun in how ridiculous they were. So once I got used to it, I enjoy it. Still, I think the beginning was really slow, and I hated how many descriptions we have in this book. The second book in Red Queen's work, which is The Liar Scheme. The thing with this book is that I put the second book and the third one after starting the first one because I was enjoying it, and because the author wrote my favorite fantasy series of all time, which is Book of the Ancestor. I was so sure I was going to love this series. But you're following a really great character who is a cheater, a coward, and a liar. That's actually his own introduction. And he's interesting in the first book, especially because you realize that he's a really unreliable narrator. But I don't think he's interesting enough to read a second book and then a third book about him. Like, I will need another point of view. The reason why I didn't hate this book, because I was bored through most of it, is because you have small memories where you're following Jalan's grandmother, which I think is the most interesting character. Like her grandmother, who is the Red Queen, and her sister and her twin brother. Those three characters are so interesting. I was reading it just for them. I loved every single scene they're wearing. Then, well, let's talk about the mystery books first, shall we? The first one is a gay thriller. I didn't put it with the gay romances because it doesn't read like a romance, it reads like a thriller, a bit like Two is a Pattern. This is the first book in a series where you're going to be following Henry Rios. This is kind of an old book. It was writing in the 80s. I wouldn't read it just for the romance because you're probably going to be disappointed, but if you do like gay romance and you love thrillers, I will recommend this one. Then I have Gone Girl. I was a bit disappointed about this book. It was like 500 pages and I read it all in like 2 sittings. It was good, but I don't agree with the ending. I didn't like it. I wanted another kind of ending. I cannot talk about it because it will be a spoiler, and I do think sometimes it was a bit too long. Like, the pacing was good throughout the book. I would just have shortened every single chapter a bit. Then I have the third book in the Millennium Trilogy, which best book I've read so far this year. This was a masterpiece. It was the third book, last book in the Millennium Trilogy. We have more books in the series, but they're writing by another author and everyone says it's not the same, so I don't think I'm going to be reading it. This is like reading Malazan, but in mystery format. It's so dense, it has so much information, it has so many plot lines, so many characters going on, so many things happening. Everything just comes together so perfectly at the end, and the characters are so interesting. I love this book. Then I have the 3 contemporary historical fiction books. The first one is The Heart's Invisible Furies. This is a really popular book, and you're following a girl who is pregnant and she has a baby boy, and then you follow the baby boy from the beginning of his life to the end of his life. You go through a lot of periods of time. You see how queer people are treated during those different periods of time. What I really loved about this book is that I learned so much history while I was reading it. The kind of problem I had with this book is that there are a lot of convenient coincidences, because it doesn't matter where they are, in what part of the world they are, you are going to find a character you already know. And I mean, I know casualties exist, but in this case they were a bit too much. But at the same time, the fact that you already knew those characters, when you see them, you're like, oh my god, you know, like I know this character, I know what happened to them, and the fact that now your character is meeting them is so exciting. So I'm like okay about it. I'm not happy about something that happens in the middle of the book because it made me so sad. I'm so angry about it. Malibu Rising, this book had been on my TBR for so long. I finally read it. I don't want to support this author anymore because it's just kind of problematic, but I did enjoy this book. That's all I'm going to say, and probably this is going to be the last book I read by her. And the last book is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's set in a coffee shop where you can travel in time, like kind of a collection of short stories happening in this cafe. A good time reading it. Let me think. I reorganized them because I was trying comparing all the books, and I think this way makes sense. This is the final ranking. I hope this was helpful for you, because some of these books, maybe you have them in your TBR. You can let me know in the comments what you think about them, if you actually read them. As always, you can like, you can subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another video.